Welcome to the Immigration Therapist Podcast, a podcast for attorneys that want to learn more about the emotional and psychological aspects of these evaluations, and for therapists that want to learn more about immigration evaluations. So, on today's episode, we're going to talk about having an editor. So, if anything, today's episode is more of a tip of the day. It's, meant to just kind of give you a straight to the point, cutting to the chase, a little tip of how can we make the evaluation writing process more productive, quicker, and effective. And my tip of the day is that having an editor, hiring someone. I don't recommend this. I don't see therapists that maybe work on immigration evaluations, maybe on a very low scale, maybe like once a month or once every couple of months. If you're just starting out, or maybe if that is your number because you're just busy with regular therapy clients, or I don't know, you can bear the burden of writing evaluations and editing them, then maybe this is not a good tip for you. But I definitely recommend having an editor for therapists that are working on a lot of evaluations. If you're at a point where it just became too cumbersome to write evaluations, if you're seeing regular clients, that, and then family life, and then work-life balance is just unbalanced. If you're just writing a lot of evaluations and you're not having time to edit them, is a good idea. So I have a few tips, how to know when it's time. I think that the number one way that you can know that it's time for you to hire help is if you are not meeting your time frame. If you're spending a lot of your time conducting sessions and you're not having enough time to actually write the evaluations. Remember, doing immigration evaluations isn't just about the clinical hour that you're in front of a client. It has to do with the clinical hour plus writing time. If anything, writing time, when you're in the beginning, writing time, it takes longer. When you don't have an editor, it takes way longer. Like I said, when I started out, in total, it used to take me like 10 hours. I cringed thinking about that because it really did. I can remember distinctively the days that I used to stay up just writing evaluations and leaving me with just a few hours of sleep. Those days are gone, long and gone, thank God. So, which is why I want to pass this tip on to, therapists that are just starting out. Having an editor. And again, I think a clear-cut sign for you to know that it's time is if you are not having enough time to write the evaluations. If you're spending more of your time just assessing clients, and it's hurting just the quality of your work, your time frame, and your self-care. So a couple tips on hiring an editor. The first thing is release of information, obviously. So paperwork. The client needs to sign a release of information. It's absolutely necessary. Remember, HIPAA and our ethics still play a role. They're still enforceable. Just because we're doing immigration evaluation doesn't mean that the protocol can be thrown out the window. A release of information is absolutely mandatory. So I recommend that. Number two, the client needs to be informed. So when you first meet with the client, the first 10 minutes that you spend talking to them about being a mandated reporter, HIPAA, and all of that, I recommend that right there and then you tell the client as well, and you get the permission, their verbal permission. Yes, you'll get their written permission, but I also recommend you get a verbal permission. And the reason is because, again, this isn't just, it's what I always talk about, that balance that perfect balance between business and therapeutic and ethics, right? And understanding the therapeutic aspects of these evaluations. This is for their immigration case, so they need to get this done yesterday, but at the same time, this has to do with their lives, trauma, past, background. It's a lot. So what I see, by telling a client on the first session, hey, I have, as part of my staff, as part of my process, I do have an editor that helps me ensure that your evaluation will be grammatically correct, will be turned in on time, so that the process can be full circle, ready to be turned into you, and their name is so and so. Another tip is you don't have to have a full-time person that works for you as an editor. They can be a freelancer. They can be part-time. They can be a virtual assistant. You can pay them by hour versus salary, for example. You can pay them a percentage. Maybe you pay them, 5%, for example, of the amount of the evaluation. My editor, I pay her per hour. She doesn't just do evaluations. She helps me with other things. She's a virtual assistant, so I pay her by the hour. Obviously, the last tip I'll give today is you need to obviously make sure that your editor is fluent in English. Not just fluent in English, verbal English. You want someone who's actually, who is proficient in writing. And obviously you want to check their work first. You can ask if they're writers. They don't necessarily need to be other therapists or in the therapy world. They can be writers. For example, my VA is not a therapist. She's actually an English teacher. So you want to make sure that your editor is someone who is qualified and capable of editing your evaluations, to make sure that they're grammatically correct, that they are edited, there's not enough spaces, that the font is correct, that everything is unanimous and congruent. So, if anything, I wouldn't want to hire just the therapist, because the clinical part, you're the one doing it. So you want someone who checks all the other stuff that they can check, that you don't necessarily need to do just because you want to save time. So that's my tip of the day, hiring an editor. This has been honestly one of the best investments I've done in the realm of writing immigration evaluations. She's saved me so much time. And I rest assured knowing that my evaluations are done correctly, because one, she was trained by me, so she's delivering what I would deliver. And two, you can always check their work before they turn it in the beginning stages. So I rest assured that my work, the quality hasn't dropped, and everything's getting turned in on time. So on time and productively and proficiently. So that's my tip of the day. I hope this helps. And as usual, you can find us on our website at centerforimmigrationevaluations.com or on social media at immigration_evaluations_center. I will see you in the next one.